Hi, fifth grade. We are working on lesson 81 of grammar. You need your grammar book. You need to have looked over the lesson plan from Jupiter Grades, and you need something to write with. So we are starting on page 430 of your grammar book. We're on lesson 81, quotation marks, part 2. So we have two vocabulary words, like always. Our first word is culpable. Culpable means deserving blame. For example, Fido is culpable for the disappearance of the last slice of pizza. Our second vocabulary word is culprit. A culprit is a guilty one or one who is accused. For example, Fido is the culprit. He has pizza sauce on his whiskers. Hey, so a set of quotation marks can only contain the words of one speaker. When the speaker changes, we use a new set of quotation marks. Also, when writing dialogue, a conversation, we start a new paragraph every time the speaker changes. So, if you look at page 430, you will have an example of a dialogue, and you'll see that it is a new paragraph every time there is a new speaker. Notice that all new paragraphs are indented. So even when you have a new paragraph that's only one sentence long, if the speaker changes, you have to start a new paragraph. We also use quotation marks for titles. We use quotation marks for titles of shorter literary works. So we use quotation marks for titles of short stories, parts of books like chapters, lessons, or sections, essays, sermons, one-act plays, newspapers and magazine articles, and short poems. What it means by short poems is non-narrative poems. So poems that you might consider long, like The Brook by Alfred Lord Tennyson, that is still considered a short poem. It is not a book length. And we would put the title in quotation marks. We don't use quotation marks for longer titles, such as books, plays, movies, television programs, operas, or long-form narrative poems, such as the Iliad or the Odyssey. We make sure to underline or italicize those titles. We don't put them in quotation marks. Oh, and I missed one. We do put in quotation marks song titles. Okay. So let's look at our practice. So for practice A, we have, is Fido the blank? Is he the guilty one? So obviously we need the vocabulary word culprit there. And B, yes, Fido is blank. He is to blame. We need the vocabulary word culpable. It's a little bit interesting that that's a dog, I assume. Culpable, which means deserving blame, usually has a moral connotation that we would not necessarily ascribe to animals, but that's okay. So we're going to rewrite some sentences and put some quotation marks in as necessary. So we have the sentence, have you ever read the story King Stork by Howard Pyle? Right? And I have my sentence right there. So I'm going to put the title of the story, King Stork, into quotation marks. Right? Do you see that? That way, this is the title of the story. It has quotation marks around it. It's also capitalized. We capitalize the titles of stories also. So, D, can you sing the song Over the Rainbow for me? So, here's my sentence. I'm going to put the title of the song, Over the Rainbow, into quotation marks. Yep, you should be able to see that. Okay? Now, it's very nice that these sentences are pointing out the titles the way that they are. We have the sentence, the short story, Gone is Gone, comes from Bohemia. Great, so there's my sentence. I'm going to put the title of the short story into quotation marks. And now my sentence is correct. And example F, I need to rewrite the dialogue inserting quotation marks where they are needed. So I have the dialogue, sit here, Molly, and tell me all about yourself. What are your hobbies? I like to catch butterflies and draw pictures, Molly said. Okay, so there's my dialogue. My first speaker, I'm going to put quotation marks around the entire direct quotation of the dialogue. There's no explanatory note in order that we need to exclude from the quotation marks. The next speaker, Molly, I'm only going to put quotation marks around from I to pictures, around her direct quotation, what she actually said. I leave out the explanatory note Molly said from my quotation marks, and I make sure that my comma is inside my quotation marks. So my dialogue should look like that. All right. So I hope this was helpful. Best of luck with your quotation marks, everybody. I will see you here tomorrow.